I appreciate everybody, honestly, who takes the time to get on these calls on a weekly basis. I mean, it really means a lot to me. And I'm just letting you know, I mean, this is not something that I do, you know, just by the, fly by night or the seat of my pants. When I prepare these calls for the week, it's something usually maybe I've had on my heart that I wanted to talk about, or it could be uh, I've had a couple of calls with agents and they're asking me about different situations. And then I think to myself, oh man, that's a great topic for a call. You know, this week's call, the three things to succeed in business. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Um, we don't do a lot of inspirational calls, and I'm going to say this is going to be more of a maybe a little bit more of a motivational, inspirational call. Um, than normal. A lot of times we try to bring you sales tips and products and different things like that. But I think this is something that's needed. I've been talking to a lot of agents this week that have been struggling with certain situations, and I really hope and pray that a call like this is going to help you succeed. Just one real quick announcement before we get going. If you need to order your new agent starter kit, get in touch with me so I can get this out to you. It gives you everything that you need to get out there and make a good in-home presentation. The Senior Solutions trifold brochure, your business cards, your door tags, your ID badge, the 10 facts brochures, the all important peace of mind, or the what we call the pre-sale folder, everything that you put in all your flyers in, and of course the famous Senior Solutions flip chart. So make sure that you get this ordered. Contact me directly, email me, or give me a call. Make sure we get everything processed for you as soon as possible. So with that, we're going to get directly into the topic of our call, which is um, the three things that you need to succeed in business. And I came across this. I don't know if this was on Facebook or the internet. Maybe this was what kind of inspired me um, to do this call. Um, if you don't know who this gentleman is in the picture, this is Dave Thomas. Dave Thomas is the founder of Wendy's, the famous hamburger chain. Now, of course, Dave has I think he's passed many years ago. I don't believe he's with us anymore. But um, one of the things that he's famous for saying is what you need to start a business is three simple things. You have to know your product better than anyone, know your customer, and have a burning desire to succeed. And guys, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So whether it's a hamburger chain, McDonald's, Wendy's, Jack in the Box, Subway, any business, whether it be a financial services, you want to be a doctor, those are the things you need to know. You need to know your product. You need to know who you're trying to deliver that product to, and you got to have the absolute burning desire to succeed. You got to have the not only the motivation but the inspiration to succeed as well. First thing we're going to be talking about is knowing your product. Guys, I'm just telling you, it's important to know your product. Um, I don't care what line of work you're in, whether what profession you're in, whether you're an electrician or a plumber or whatever, and you need to know your products. Can you imagine being an electrician and not knowing your products, putting in the wrong gauge wire and causing a house to catch on fire because the amps were overloaded, or being a plumber and not putting in the right products, using the wrong solder, wrong type of PVC glue, you could destroy somebody's house. It's important for us as financial services agents, as final expense agents, is that we got to know our product. We got to make sure that we're putting our clients in the absolute right product, that we're doing what's best for our clients 100% of the time. And if you don't do that, then you're subject to, you actually could be subject to getting in trouble with your state insurance commissioner, or you could be putting the client in a bad position. Maybe you put them in a product that has a 2-year wait when you could have put them into a same-day coverage, or at least you didn't give them the opportunity to get same-day coverage, even if the premium was a little bit higher. Also, if you don't know your products, you're putting yourself in a position where potentially you could get your products replaced. Meaning, if you go in to see a client and because of their medications and you just don't know what to do, or check this out. We had Willie on in South Florida, who went through 3 different carriers before he finally got his customer approved with Royal Neighbor same-day coverage. Okay, can you imagine after he got, I think it was initially they got turned down with, I think it was with Mutual of Omaha, then maybe Liberty Bankers. A lot of agents would have said, screw it, let me just put this person guaranteed issue. Okay. What could have happened is that another agent shows up, because here's the thing you got to know, and we're going to be talking about knowing your clients too, is that your clients will from time to time mail in different mailers, or you will have agents that are calling on B leads. Maybe you got a fresh A lead. Okay, maybe you got a fresh A lead. You go out and you see that client, but what you don't know is that that same client filled out a form a year ago, and then 6 months from now, you're going to have an agent prospecting on 2-year-old or 3-year-old leads and could come across your client. Guys, it happens all the time. This is why it's so important to make sure that we are putting our clients in the right product, because you don't want your products to get replaced. Number one, you want to do what's right for the customer. That's our obligation, and that's our duty, unequivocally, to make sure that we are putting our clients in the best position possible, giving them their options. Okay, making sure they understand the products and the services that you are attempting to deliver. But when it comes to product knowledge, here's what most of you already know, is that regardless of what profession you're in, people that specialize, that are experts, tend to get paid more than general practitioners. Examples, I think doctors is probably the most famous example that people give, is that why do surgeons and doctors who specialize in a certain type of medicine typically get paid more than your family practitioner? It's because they're known to be, they're specialized. Guys, that's why we specialize in the final expense market, because we want to be specialists. You will make more money if you focus on a certain field, a certain area of the insurance business, versus you're the guy that tries to be everything. Oh, I want to be Medicare supplement. I want to know this, and you're chasing all these different deals. I'm just telling you, I run across those agents all the time. Usually they're broke and they don't make a lot of money. The agents in our industry that typically make a lot of money are the ones that have a good general knowledge of a lot of products. Okay, so don't get me wrong. It's good to know a lot about a lot of different products, but it's better to know a few products with a high level of intensity, or with to be specialized, in other words. So we gave the doctor scenarios. Attorneys, attorneys who specialize, in criminal law, as an example, are typically make more money than attorneys who just try to do a little bit of everything. CPAs who specialize in a certain field typically make more. And of course, in our field, insurance agents typically, usually make more money when they specialize in a certain area of financial services versus trying to be everything to everybody. Guys, it's impossible to be everything to everybody, and it's okay. That's why we have specialized markets. You get a client that potentially has a 401k rollover. It's okay to tell your client, listen, I'm knowledgeable on this subject, but I'm not an expert. I'd like for you to talk to my expert. We get who? We get Jimmy Hernandez in, our certified financial advisor. He's a tax specialist and a certified financial planner. We get Jimmy involved to talk about certain types of annuity products and what will be suitable. We want to be experts in that final expense knowledge. And like I said, it's good and it's important for you to know and to have a lot of general knowledge on a lot of different subjects. But it's more important to specialize. And what products should you focus on? Like, in other words, what carrier? I get this all the time. Joe, what carriers should be my primary carriers? You know what my answer is? Because I get this question all the time. It's really easy. The answer may surprise you, okay? Focus on the carriers you're contracted with, okay? Don't get all caught up in the different carriers. Yes, we talk about certain carriers. We favor different carriers over other carriers. But essentially, we're contracted with over 20 final expense companies. It would literally be almost impossible to be an expert with every single carrier. That's why it's good to narrow your focus down to about 4 or 5 carriers. Okay. Now, the question I get is, which carriers should I focus on? And again, I come back, focus on the ones you can get approved with, or you can get contracted with. A lot of times we'll contract agents that have been with other IMOs and they can't get, let's say, example, Mutual of Omaha or Transamerica. Okay, no big deal. We've got a gazillion other carriers. We've got CFG, Prosperity, Royal Neighbors, Oxford, American Amicable. I mean, we've got a ton of great carriers that you can contract with. So the most important thing is don't necessarily worry about the name of the carrier, like, oh, it's got to be this carrier or that carrier, or I can't succeed. That's not true. Oh, we have a new carrier, American Memorial Life. I'm just telling you, I don't know, 6-7 years ago when I was working with a different IMO, AML, American Memorial Life, that was the only carrier I had. I was basically about a one-trick pony. That was my only carrier. So what did I do? I became an expert with American Memorial Life. So become an expert with the carriers that we have. Typically, it's good to know a little bit about all the carriers. And that's why we have the cheat sheet, kind of gives you a snapshot of all the different products. But what I'm telling you is that it's better to narrow your focus on about 4 or 5 primary carriers. And what we can do is we can discuss one-on-one what carriers you should focus on, but it's going to be based on the carriers that you can contract with. Because if you're coming over from a previous IMO, you may not be able to get some of the carriers that we have. Okay, so don't get too caught up in all that stuff. But of course, guaranteed issue products, you need to have. So when I say 4 or 5 carriers, I'm talking about 4 or 5 like primary carriers, and then have guaranteed issue companies. Now, the unique thing about products and guaranteed issue companies, you really don't need to know much about them because they're all virtually the same. There's no questions asked. There's a 2-year reduced death benefit with 10% return of premium in the first 2 years. So when it comes to product knowledge on guaranteed issue, you don't even need to study those products. The ones you need to study are I would say the products that you're going to be selling 80 to 85% of the time, which are your primary carriers. And a lot about knowing your product, a lot of that is about the field underwriting and the little nuances between which company, as an example, will accept a person with COPD or diabetes or irregular heartbeat, depression, bipolar depression, schizophrenia. These are a lot of the most common health issues that we get with our, with our clients. So again, just to recap, know your product. It's important. Know your customer. Guys, who are our customers? Who are we dealing with? Let's just cut to the chase, man. Let's be honest with each other. In final expense, we are dealing with clients that are typically low income to middle income. Occasionally you'll get the client that's well off, which is great. That's the one-off lead. The majority of the people, think about this. Why are clients responding to advertising? Well, I think it makes sense, right? That the reason why they're responding to advertising is typically these are people that have done a horrible job of planning. Like they didn't save, they weren't good savers, or they just never made enough money to save. I mean, if you go through your whole life and you're basically uneducated and never work to advance your skills, you're probably going to get stuck in a low-paying job for the rest of your life, which means you're never going to have enough money to set money aside into a 401k. You probably never were educated young by a financial advisor that you should have an insurance product, maybe a whole life product or an index universal life product that builds cash value. No, our clients are typically low income earners who never saved any money because they couldn't. I would say through no fault of their own, but it really is their fault because they didn't educate themselves. They didn't work hard to get better. That's okay. These are the people that we're serving. They deserve high quality products just like everybody else. But these are the customers that we're going out to see on a daily basis. But the one thing I can tell you, regardless of their financial position, whether they're low income, middle income, or high income, I can tell you one thing that all of our customers, that they all have in mind, and that is they all want to make sure is that when they do pass away, they're not leaving their family with a financial burden. Doesn't matter how much money you make, nobody in their right mind would ever want to pass away and think to themselves, oh, good, I'm going to stick my kids with a $10,000 funeral bill. Or maybe it's $1,500. Maybe they have to do a direct cremation because nobody has any money. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody in their right mind. Nobody we want as a client, anyway. That's why people respond to direct mail, Facebook leads, call-in leads, telemarketed leads. Yes, they want more information because they don't want to leave their family with a financial burden when they pass away. So guys, that's our clients. Our clients are typically low-income people, but they still typically will have enough money that even when they're on a tight budget, they can still set aside 50, 60 bucks a month to take care of what needs to be taken care of. And occasionally we'll get lucky. We'll come across that client that maybe they did have a good job that had a pension. So maybe they were a government worker, work for the city or municipality, and they have Social Security, which is 1,200 a month. They have a pension of 800 a month or 500 a month, and they're making close to 2 grand a month. Guys, you will find those cases all the time if you see enough people. And you'll pop those cases for 100 a month, 200 a month, even occasionally 300 a month. So know your customer. Another thing about knowing your customer, the biggest mistake that I see a lot of agents make is that they automatically assume, because they're dealing typically with low income people, they automatically assume that they can't afford anything and they only show them low premiums. Don't make that mistake. Always get in the habit of showing your client the maximum that they can get approved for. So if they're 65 years old and you can, in whatever carrier you're going through, let's say the maximum coverage is 30,000, make sure that you show them 30,000. That's really, really, really important to be able to do that, because you just never know. Sometimes that customer that you're dealing with, that you think is low income, you know what? Maybe they had a better job than you think. Maybe they had a job that came with some benefits. Um, Maybe their spouse passed away and left them an annuity or some type of pension plan. Just um, never prejudge your customers, and also never prejudge a house by its appearance. Just like they say, don't judge a book by its cover. Never judge a house by its appearance. I have sold some of my biggest cases in some of the crappiest houses you've ever seen, even to the point where the roof was like caved in partially, and they had like the blue tarp tacked onto the roof, and those cases are still on the book. So but these are the kind of houses that we go into. And you know what? If you're not comfortable with that, that's cool. But just final expense isn't going to be the right business for you, because these are the people that we deal with. In the majority, and it's important when dealing with clients, that it's to really, I feel, to really succeed at the highest level, it's important to go see these clients face to face. Now, I know we've been doing, because of COVID, we've been doing a lot of sales over the phone, which has been great. I've made a ton of sales over the phone. Um, it's totally different. It's harder. I'm just telling you, selling over the phone is much tougher than selling in person. You're going to have a lower placement and persistency level selling over the phone. We can do it. My recommendation is if you like selling over the phone, that's fine. But how about doing a combination of both? How about selling over the phone and going out to see clients face to face? I think that's important. And here's what I can tell you. Places are opening back up. Clients are ready to meet with their financial services advisor, with their final expense agents. I'm getting reports from agents all over the country that, hey man, things are almost back to normal. There are probably some areas that you want to stay out of, like, and most of our agents don't work in big cities anyway. You know what I mean? If you're working in downtown Los Angeles, Chicago, Baltimore, Atlanta, just thinking some areas, Detroit, maybe you don't want to, you don't want to work downtown. Go out to the burbs, go out to the suburbs, you don't have to go out to the rural farm areas. Just get 15, 20 miles out from the city, man. There's a lot of great callers, or a lot of great clients out in the burbs as well. And that's typically where I work. I find areas, suburbs that have a little bit of industry, very blue collar, and that's where I've done extremely well. So know your customer. Let me see. I was just getting a text. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put this on pause. I was muted. Let's see here. Jimmy, are you on now? Jimmy says his, let me just check here. Hey, Jimmy, it just says you're self-muted if you want to hop on.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah, I had you, the volume turned down, or what was the deal?
I don't know. I was talking, but you couldn't hear me, so I don't know if it was my mic or the volume on your computer. But I hopped in off my phone in case it was my mic.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, very good. Well, it's good to have you on the call. So I kind of talked about knowing your product first, knowing your clients. I like to get, before we move on to the last subject of the call, and I'm really glad that you're on, but I like to get any thoughts or any input that you like to contribute on those two topics.
Yeah, I want to go back to your first one, knowing your product. My biggest recommendation is to study the underwriting guidelines for each product. So let's talk about final expense for a second. Let's say, for example, you have a carrier A, and you want to learn about it. You get the underwriting guidelines and you read through it, and what it's going to tell you, Joe, is going to give you information like what the age group is, like might be from ages 18 to 75, or it might be ages 0 to 79 or 80. So you want to find out what age can you sell this product to, and then it's also going to give you all the medical stuff. And then the second thing that's very, very important is that you get the application and you read all the health questions verbatim to yourself and study them and make notes, right? And so pay attention to the timeline. So, typically the timelines are, have you ever, and then another one would be within the last 4 years, within the last 2 years, within the last 12 months, right? So you don't mix them up. Get your timelines right. So study those underwriting guidelines, and then you can spend time with one carrier, and then go study carrier B, and then you can make your notes as to the differences or what they allow, and you can use the cheat sheet as a guide to kind of help distinguish or for those highlights to pop out at you. But that's the best way to get to know your product, is learning those underwriting guidelines. The next thing that you want to do is that you want to study the underwriting guidelines by product within one carrier. So for example, let's say Mutual of Omaha, you get really good and you're very proficient at knowing what they're looking for on the Living Promise product, and then you turn around and you go use a GULE, or Guaranteed Universal Life Express, and although many of the questions are similar, they are different, right? So don't assume that because what they qualified for Living Promise, they're going to qualify for GULE. That's the number one mistake I see people make, is they're just assuming it's the same, health questions, and it's not. So my last recommendation for you guys is to study 1 hour per week. Put it on your calendar, block it out, and commit to it. And every week, just study 1 hour. That's all it takes, right? So typically for myself, I'm going to block out Saturday morning or Sunday morning before anybody else gets up in the house. I'm up early and I'm studying and I'm learning the underwriting guideline. That's my recommendation for you guys. Maybe it's not on a weekend, maybe it's in the evening, but whatever works best for you, commit to 1 hour. Going to knowing your clients, the only way you're really going to know is by asking questions and observing, right? But when you ask questions, you don't want to interrogate them. You want to ask like you're talking to a friend, you're getting to know somebody, and you want to, blend in a little bit of information about yourself and your family. But notice I said a little bit, Don't go on and on. People want to talk about themselves. They don't want to hear you talk about yourself. But it's important to blend in a little bit about you, because that helps build the trust and the relationship. So it can't just be one-sided. You know everything about them and they don't know anything about you. You just got to kind of help blend it in. Um, and then, build rapport by looking for common ground. Maybe they collect coffee cups and you collect coffee cups. You can talk about that. Maybe you both enjoy the same sports team. You can talk about that. Maybe you notice they're into gardening and you like gardening. You can talk about that. So just look for some common ground and get to know your clients and get to know what you want to probe for. So like you want to obviously kind of probe about their health. But other things that I look for, Joe, is I look for what is their motivation for buying this policy. And so what I mean by that is, like, who is it that they're trying to protect? Is it their daughter, their spouse, their grandchild, and why? What is their motivation? Why do they want to leave them as the beneficiary? What kind of situation is that person in financially? So in other words, if they passed on, are they leaving a financial burden on that other party? How is it going to affect them? So you want to probe and ask questions, and they'll tell you the whole life story. They'll tell you everything, and that's good. You get to know them. The other thing you want to do is you want to ask, about their retirement. How are they set for retirement? Do they have any old, retirement plans that they don't know what to do with? And let me just tell you a common theme that I see when I was in the field before I became a financial advisor. Almost all the time, this is when I asked, and I looked for the questions and, looked for the money and asked. Two things. One, they don't know what to do with the money. They're scared. Two, they have no help from their current financial advisor. Maybe the account was with, I'm not going to say any names or I don't get in trouble, but maybe it's XYZ advisory firm or XYZ brokerage. And that brokerage has a minimum threshold of $500,000, in some cases $1 million in the account to merit a financial advisor to be attached to that portfolio. And if they're under that, which almost all the time they don't get a financial advisor. All they get is an 800 number to call, and they're always going to talk to somebody different, which means that there's somebody there to answer their questions, but there's nobody there looking out for that person's best interest. Nobody's reaching out to them proactively saying, hey, this is what's going on. I think we should make this recommendation, or you should do this. They're basically an account number. And so they're not happy. And that was one of the motivating factors for me to become a financial advisor, because I wanted to be that person that they can rely on and they can count on to help them, right? So you can identify with them and find, opportunity for a financial product and help them maybe with an annuity or give them some guaranteed income. Maybe that person, when I was in final expense, what I found out, Joe, is a lot of times they didn't have the medical underwriting to get approved for a level coverage, but they were sitting on a 401k or an IRA, or they're sitting on something that we can use to fund that as a death benefit. So maybe I didn't make the final expense sell, but maybe we rolled their retirement plan or a portion of it into an annuity that gave them the death benefit, but also gave them growth and security, or in some cases gave them an additional stream of income, which they really, really needed. So get to know your clients. Joe, I'll turn it back over to you so we can go into number 3.
All right, very well said. The only thing I want to just emphasize, guys, everything that Jimmy's talking about right now, it's about being a professional, okay? It's about being at the top of your field. And here's the thing that I can tell you is that professionals make more than amateurs, okay? Don't be an amateur sales agent. Don't be an amateur final expense agent. Be a professional agent. Be a professional final expense agent. Know your products. Know your products. Know the rules of the game. What I mean by the rules, that's about knowing your products and the little nuances between. The better you can understand that, the better off you are with placing your client in the right product. And know your customers. There's somebody, it's on the top of my head, but there's a really famous quote that says, know the rules of the game and play the game better than anyone else. Do you know who said that, Jimmy? Whose famous quote that is?
I don't, but that sounds good to me, Joe.
I think it might be Albert Einstein. I want to say, you guys can Google it, but it's the rules. Know the rules of the game and play it better than anyone else. And that's always that's always stuck with me, is that I might not be the smartest guy in the world, but I know if I can just know, a half a dozen products really, really well, and it's not that hard. You just follow Jimmy's advice. You read the product guides, and you go out and you write a lot of business. You do that, and you go out and you help a lot of clients. Guys, that's the way that you become an expert. Is constantly learning and improving your knowledge. The last thing that we're going to talk about is being successful in business. One of Dave Thomas's 3 rules, 3 simple things to be successful in business, and really any business, is honestly just having a burning desire, man. Is every morning when you wake up, man, just be inspired and be motivated to go out and do your job and help people. I mean, that's what every day, I just wake up with enthusiasm, knowing that I have an opportunity to change somebody's life, whether that's helping out an agent, becoming a top agent, helping out a client, getting people covered that thought that they would never be able to get insurance before. Sometimes you got to go guaranteed issue. Sometimes you can get them same day coverage with. It's all inspiring when you can go out and do that. But if you don't know if you have a burning desire, then you probably don't have it, but you can get it. And the easiest way to get a burning desire to succeed is to associate and read books and associate with people in life who do have a burning desire to succeed. If you're hanging around people, listen, I don't want to call anybody a loser, but it is what it is. If you're hanging around people that just don't have any motivation, they're not inspired, they're zero ambition, that stuff rubs off on you, man. If you don't have anybody ambitious, enthusiastic to hang around with, you're better off not hanging around with anybody and reading books, find new friends, join a club. Give me a call, give Jimmy a call. As you can tell, I mean, Jimmy's one of the most inspiring, motivated, ambitious people that I know. And ambition and having a burning desire is almost contagious. That if you get around people that are positive, no matter what the situation is, we're going through some bad stuff right now, man, but stay positive. The stock market is like a freaking roller coaster from Great America right now. I mean, it is all over the place. Stay positive. Know that it's going to rebound. Know that things are going to get better socially and economically. Everything that's going on in the world today with all the riots and the COVID and everything. Man, you just gotta have to be able to stay positive and get through that. And then having a burning desire. I don't know if you guys have ever, hopefully you've read it, but that having a burning desire to succeed may ring a bell if you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read it, would you please do me a favor? download it on Audible or go to Amazon and pick it up. Go to a used bookstore. You can probably find it for $1, $2 at a used bookstore. Um, that should be one of the first books that you ever read. And in that book, Napoleon Hill talks about having a burning desire. And Napoleon Hill studied a lot of famous people, interviewed a lot of people like Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, I believe Henry Ford as well, but I'm not 100% sure. But the thing about the book is that Think and Grow Rich, there's many, hundreds of thousands of people that contribute part of their success as into reading that book, that it gave them the, it helped put in that burning desire to succeed. What I did was I took a little clip from the book. I'm going to put the book up here. I'm not sure what page this is on, but I'm just going to read this to you. And this is in the book, Think and Grow Rich, and it should really make you think. And it simply just says a burning desire is the starting point from which the dreams must take off. In other words, that burning desire is like your platform. If you ever seen like the space shuttle take off or a fighter jet take off of an aircraft carrier, that's the starting point. That's the platform. So you got to have that foundation, that platform, which is the burning desire. And he goes on to say that dreams are not born from indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. Okay, so if you do have that dream, you can't be indefinite. You got to have something what they call a singleness of purpose. Like be focused. You can't have a dream about being an expert in 10 different fields. That's why a lot of times in athletes, when you have these especially in high school, the coaches say, listen, I understand, you're super athletically gifted and you want to play, baseball, basketball, football, run track, but you will be more successful if you focus on one sport. And a lot of times that's what happens, is that they focus on that one sport where they have the best chance to succeed. There are very few people in the world that could ever be super successful in multiple sports. Michael Jordan, he tried it. He obviously, some would say, I would say, in my humble opinion, he's the best basketball player I've ever seen. And then after his dad passed away for 2 years, he played a little bit of baseball. Never really succeeded at a great level, but he did pretty good. He did a lot better than what people thought he would do, not because he was overly talented in baseball, but if you read and watch the documentary, I mean, he worked his tail off in trying to get better at baseball. But I'll give you some examples. Bo Jackson, football, baseball. He's the only, as far as I know, Bo Jackson's the only person that ever went to the All-Star game and the NFL Pro Bowl. Another guy I could think of, Sanders. Who am I thinking of? Deion Sanders. Deion, probably, next to Bo Jackson, probably one of the most amazing athletes of our, last 100 years that's ever lived. He's another guy that played football and baseball at an all-star level. But moving on, dreams, I'm going to read the rest of this. Dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. Remember that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start. They pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they arrive. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually come at a moment of crisis. So just remember that, guys, when you're going through your business, it's not going to be a rose garden. Man, you're going to have trials and tribulations. Stuff's going to happen to you. You're going to get knocked on your butt. It's Rocky Balboa, one of my favorite fictional characters, who says it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. That's about having a burning desire, is not giving up. Jimmy, I got one last slide, but anything that you'd like to add in just having that burning desire and the inspiration, motivation to succeed?
Well, I wanted to first validate what you started with about your friends. I have two daughters that graduated high school this year. They're about a year apart, but the way their birthdays fell, they're in the same grade, right? And anyway, the older one, I brought her with me to the office one day, and I had a client who is a multimillionaire. He owns several businesses, and he's just really wealthy. And I introduced him to her, and I did not anticipate the conversation that they were going to have. I thought it was just going to be a typical nice to meet you and blah blah blah, and that was it. But you know what, he asked her, he asked her about herself and what she planned to do, and after school, and then he started asking her, well, who are your friends? Tell me about your friends. What do they do? What do they like to do? What do y'all do together? And he went on like this path, and he asked all these questions about her friends. And, she didn't say anything negative, but, I guess he saw the lack, right? And he says, I'm going to make a recommendation to you. If you want to be successful in life, you need to find new friends. So,
Yeah.
so I thought that was funny. So that just to validate what you started with. And then the other thing I was going to say, this helps me. We didn't talk about goal setting. That's a part of it, but that's not really what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is how to visually create that desire. So let's say you do have a goal or a dream. Let's say it's an object. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a house, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a toy. Maybe you want a certain, really cool toy, expensive toy, I don't know, whatever it is that you really, really want. Take a picture of it, get a flyer, and put that in front of you every day. If I'm going to just stick with a car for a second. If there's a car that you really, really want, you go out there, test drive it, get the flyers, get the brochures, get the pictures, put that to your, tape that to your refrigerator or the mirror that you get dressed at every day. Put it inside your current car. Put it somewhere where you look at it every day, multiple times a day, because what you're doing is you're putting it in front of you. See, the problem with most people is that, if it's out of sight, if it's out of mind. So when you visually put that object in front of you daily, it's always in your mind, and it creates that burning desire to achieve it. There was a billionaire. One time he was the richest man in the world. And, I'm going to date myself here, but we used to have a mini series on TV called Dallas back in I think it was the 80s, maybe the 70s.
I love that show. I love Dallas.
And J.R. Ewing was based on this, real life person. And I believe it was H.L. Hunt. And Hunt at that time was the richest man in the world. And he said, the secret to success is first determining what it is that you want. So let's stick with the car. Let's say there's a specific car or truck, SUV that you want. First determine what it is that you want. Then figure out what it's going to cost to get it. Now, he's not talking about the dollar amount. He's talking about the work, the effort, the dials, the door knocks, all the things that you have to do to get to that point. And then lastly, he just says, resolve to pay that price. It's real simple, right? But first you got to determine what it is that you want. It starts with that. Put that in front of your face every day. create that burning desire, and then go out there and get it. So Joe, I'll turn that back over to you.
Awesome, dude. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up the call with a couple of thoughts of my own. And if you have any last minute things, Jimmy, that would be great.
Hey, Joe, I did want to make that announcement about Transamerica. So I don't know if you want to do that before your final thoughts or after.
Yeah. What, let's go ahead and I think I'm going the wrong way now, but yeah, go ahead. I totally forgot about that. Let's talk about the announcement with Transamerica.
All right, great. Well, guys, Transamerica announced this week, and if you missed the email, I just want to put it out there. There, as Joe alluded to like a week ago, Transamerica had a bad, I guess you can say launch on their e-app. So they're trying to make things right. They're trying to get people back in, and so they redid their e-app for the final expense solutions, and they announced a bonus effective June 1, so it's already in place from June 1 through August 31st. Every application that is placed is going to get an additional $40 bonus. So that's on top of whatever commission you're going to earn. You're going to get an additional $40, and they're going to pay that out once a month. Of course, it does need to be placed business, and I believe it has to be placed by September. I'm going to say the 30th, but I might be wrong. Let me pull it up here, and I can look at the. Oops.
Do you have a flyer on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I sent it to you via email earlier.
Yeah, I missed it. I didn't see that. I'm glad you caught that. But let's keep that on the forefront, and every week let's keep making that an announcement. So keep it on the front of everyone's mind so they know about it.
I did pull it up, and I just want to reiterate. So it's June 1 through August 31st, okay? And it has to be placed by September 30th. And it's for insured ages 18 to 75, okay? And it says personal agent cases in child policies are not eligible. It excludes all business in New York. And one last thing, it's on the final expense solutions, which is the final expense product, or their new whole life product. So only on those two products.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, guys, we'll start writing some TA, man.
There you go. Get you some.
Get you some, man. Thanks, Jimmy. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you off with this one little thing. A couple of my personal quotes that I tell myself all the time that kind of keeps me motivated, and that is that nobody owes you nothing in life. In other words, I say it to myself, Joe, nobody owes you nothing. It's up to you to make your own success. You know what? You've heard the saying, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Guys, that's been my philosophy forever, is that you got to make your own success. The last thing I want to just remind you is that how important it is that you got to take 100% responsibility for where you are in life. And where you are in life is because of the decisions or possibly the indecisions that you've made thus far. And the reason why I want to bring this up is, and the reason why I think it's important and it applies to what's going on in the world today, is stop blaming other people for you not succeeding. Listen, it's not my fault. It's not your upline's fault. It's not the carrier's fault. It's not the situation of what's going on. It's not COVID-19's fault. Everything that happens to you, everything that happens to you is because of the decisions that you've made. It's because of the decisions I've made. I am where I am. My business is as big or as small as it is only because of the decisions that I've made. And you just got to own up to it, man. Stop blaming other people. Stop blaming the situation. Oh, if things only get better. Stop wishing for the situation to get better. Take 100% responsibility for yourself and you go get better. You go get better at knowing the product. You go get better at activity. You go get better at making phone calls. Get better at your phone script. It's going to be up to you to succeed. It's not my responsibility to make sure that you succeed. It's my responsibility to provide the platform for you to succeed. But at the end of the day, you got to go do the work, man. And that's it, Jimmy. Any last thoughts before we call it a weekend?
No, sir. That was awesome.
All right, everybody have an awesome weekend. Love you guys. If you need help, give me a call, give Jimmy a call. We're here to support you and give you all the tools that you need. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Take care. Bye, Jimmy.
Bye-bye.